Then none was for a party, then all were for the state. Then the great man helped the poor, and the poor man loved the great. Then lands were fairly portioned, then spoils were fairly sold. The Romans were like brothers in the brave days of old. Now Roman is to Roman more hateful than a foe, And the tribunes beard the high, and the fathers grind the low. As we wax hot in faction, in battle we wax cold. Wherefore men fight not as they fought in the brave days of old. Now while the three were tightening their harness on their backs, The consul was the foremost man to take in hand an axe; And fathers mixed with commons seized hatchet, bar, and crow, And smote upon the planks above, and loosed the props below. Meanwhile the Tuscan army, right glorious to behold, Came flashing back the noonday light, Rank behind rank, like surges bright Of a broad sea of gold. 400 trumpets sounded a peal of warlike glee, As that great host, with measured tread, And spears advanced, and ensigns spread, Rolled slowly towards the bridge's head, Where stood the dauntless three. The three stood calm and silent, and looked upon the foes; And a great shout of laughter from all the vanguard rose. And forth three chiefs came spurring before that deep array; To earth they sprang, their swords they drew, And lifted high their shields, and flew To win the narrow way. Aunus from green Tifernum, lord of the Hill of Vines, And Seius, whose 800 slaves sicken in Ilva's mines, And Picus, long to Clusium vassal in peace and war, Who led to fight his Umbrian powers From that gray crag where, girt with towers, The fortress of Nequinum lowers Over the pale waves of Nar. Stout Lartius hurled down Aunus Into the stream beneath. Herminius struck at Seius, And clove him to the teeth. At Picus brave Horatius Darted one fiery thrust, And the proud Umbrian's gilded arms Clashed in the bloody dust. Then Ocnus of Falerii Rushed on the Roman three, And Lausulus of Urgo, The rover of the sea, And Arruns of Volsinium, Who slew the great wild boar, The great wild boar that has his den Amidst the reeds of Cosa's fen, And wasted fields and slaughtered men Along Albinia's shore. Herminius smote down Arruns, Lartius laid Ocnus low. Right to the heart of Lausulus Horatius sent a blow. "Lie there," he cried, "fell pirate, no more Aghast and pale! From Ostia's walls the crowd shall mark The track of thy destroying bark. No more Campania's hinds shall fly To woods and caverns when they spy Thy thrice accursed sail." But now no sound of laughter Was heard among the foes. A wild and wrathful clamour From all the vanguard rose. 6 spears' length from the entrance Halted that deep array, And for a space no man came forth To win the narrow way. But hark! the cry is Astur, And lo! the ranks divide, And the great Lord of Luna Comes with his stately stride. Upon his ample shoulders Clangs loud the fourfold shield, And in his hand he shakes the brand Which none but he can wield. He smiled on those bold Romans, A smile serene and high; He eyed the flinching Tuscans, And scorn was in his eye. Quoth he, "The she wolf's litter Stand savagely at bay; But will ye dare to follow, If Astur clears the way?" Then, whirling up his broadsword With both hands to the height, He rushed against Horatius, And smote with all his might. With shield and blade Horatius Right deftly turned the blow. The blow, though turned, came yet too nigh; It missed his helm, but gashed his thigh. The Tuscans raised a joyful cry To see the red blood flow. He reeled, and on Herminius He leant one breathing space; Then, like a wild cat mad with wounds, Sprang right at Astur's face. Through teeth and skull and helmet So fierce a thrust he sped, The good sword stood a handbreadth out Behind the Tuscan's head. And the great Lord of Luna Fell at that deadly stroke, As falls on Mount Alvernus A thunder smitten oak. Far o'er the crashing forest the giant arms lie spread, And the pale augurs, muttering low, gaze on the blasted head. On Astur's throat Horatius right firmly pressed his heel, And thrice and four times tugged amain, ere he wrenched out the steel. "And see," he cried, "the welcome, fair guests, that waits you here! What noble look you mo comes next to taste our Roman cheer?" But at his haughty challenge a sullen murmur ran, Mingled of wrath, and shame, and dread. Along that glittering van there lacked not men of prowess, Nor men of lordly race, For all Etruria's noblest were round the fatal place. But all Etruria's noblest felt their hearts sink to see On the earth the bloody corpses, in the path the dauntless three. And from the ghastly entrance where those bold Romans stood, All shrank like boys who unaware, Ranging the woods to start a hare, Come to the mouth of the dark lair Where, growling low, a fierce old bear Lies amidst bones and blood. Was none who would be foremost To lead such dire attack, But those behind cried "Forward!" And those before cried "Back!" And backward now and forward Wavers the deep array, And on the tossing sea of steel To and fro the standards reel, And the victorious trumpet peal Dies fitfully away. Yet one man for one moment Strode out before the crowd; Well known was he to all the three, And they gave him greeting loud. "Now welcome, welcome, Sextus! Now welcome to thy home! Why dost thou stay and turn away? Here lies the road to Rome." Thrice looked he at the city, Thrice looked he at the dead, And thrice came on in fury, And thrice turned back in dread, And white with fear and hatred Scowled at the narrow way, Where, wallowing in a pool of blood, The bravest Tuscans lay. But meanwhile axe and lever Have manfully been plied, And now the bridge hangs tottering Above the boiling tide. Come back, Horatius!" Loud cried the fathers all. "Back, Lartius! Back, Herminius! Back, ere the ruin fall!" Back darted Spurius Lartius, Herminius darted back, And as they passed, beneath their feet They felt the timbers crack. But when they turned their faces, And on the farther shore Saw brave Horatius stand alone, They would have crossed once more. But with a crash like thunder Fell every loosened beam, And like a dam the mighty wreck Lay right athwart the stream. And a long shout of triumph Rose from the walls of Rome, As to the highest turret tops Was splashed the yellow foam. And, like a horse unbroken When first he feels the rein, The furious river struggled hard, And tossed his tawny mane, And burst the curb, and bounded, Rejoicing to be free, And whirling down in fierce career, Battlement and plank and pier Rushed headlong to the sea. Alone stood brave Horatius, But constant still in mind, Thrice 30,000 foes before, And the broad flood behind. "Down with him!" cried false Sextus, With a smile on his pale face. "Now yield thee," cried Lars Porsena, "Now yield thee to our grace." Round turned he, as not deigning Those craven ranks to see. Nought spake he to Lars Porsena, To Sextus nought spake he. But he saw on Palatinus The white porch of his home, And he spake to the noble river That rolls by the towers of Rome. "O Tiber, Father Tiber, To whom the Romans pray, A Roman's life, a Roman's arms Take thou in charge this day." So he spake, and speaking, sheathed The good sword by his side, And with his harness on his back Plunged headlong in the tide. No sound of joy or sorrow Was heard from either bank, But friends and foes in dumb surprise, With parted lips and straining eyes, Stood gazing where he sank. And when above the surges They saw his crest appear, All Rome sent forth a rapturous cry, And even the ranks of Tuscany Could scarce forbear to cheer. But fiercely ran the current, Swollen high by months of rain, And fast his blood was flowing, And he was sore in pain. And heavy with his armour, and